Last week, the club class came down to only 0.2 of a second at the line. So while Taylor started off Series 8 with a win, the question is if he can keep it up against Albaga. Sebring will hopefully hold answers as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 8 live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark and Rachel Whiteford. Cameron Aubernon is on social media along with Ryan Bauer producing, who's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Wednesday night has given us some insight into Sebring with the challenge in sport classes. Let's hop on over to our track guide in case any of our viewers missed those. Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well-known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course. Well, DJ, based on what we saw on Wednesday, what are we expecting to be the major factors the drivers need to watch out for in these GT3 992s?
Well, Joe, what they're going to have to watch out for is a very tricky circuit all the way around. Especially in the opening lap, they're going to have to be a little bit careful as turn 1 goes from a big, wide straightaway and funnels its way down into a very narrow entry. We've seen some kerfluffles happen there in the past. They're going to have some good overtaking opportunities, specifically going down into the hairpin or maybe into Cunningham Corner and maybe again into Tower. We've seen some very good fight backs all the way through there. And then out of Tower, it's really all about keeping up momentum and speed all the way down to Le Mans Curve, because the long almond straight is the best place to gain up time. That long straightaway you can tuck up behind in the draft and really be able to pull yourself along, even though it may not be as fortuitous to try to make a pass down into that final corner of Sunset as it may be trying to do a little one-on-one battle going into turn 1.
Right now, we're in the midst of qualifying. Haven't seen anybody set a time yet. It does take a little bit to get around here, Rachel, so it might be a minute before we see the first ones, but we've hopped on board with Terrence Tong to take us down into Hotel Hairpin. This is where things get pretty technical.
Yeah, it certainly is. This is probably the first real challenge they have now, because they have that big chicane leading into a good fast flowing section here. There's a lot of passing opportunities if the drivers get it right, so they have to be very careful here. Watch their back, watch their mirrors.
Down into Cunningham. A little bit of corrections in there for Terrence, but takes it through Collier nice and tidy, and then down to where we saw a lot of problems back in the challenge in sport classes on Wednesday into Tower, but he handles that one fine. Up to Tom Hilt in the meantime, who is coming through Jean Demien, and he is going to try and see if he can improve on that 203 flat that he hit in his practice time. He's got a number of other drivers just ahead of him, getting ready to finish their flying lap as he comes down the backstretch all the way up to almost 150 miles an hour before they finally get on the brakes and into the final corner, coming around Sunset Bend to try and see where he sits. Now they get 3 laps, DJ, so they're limited on their opportunities. Not only that, but only 10 minutes to try and put those in.
Yeah, and you've really got to be on it around here. You cannot spare a single lap of holding back. Now, granted, a little bit what we saw in the race on Wednesday was first drivers coming out and doing banker laps, putting down that lap that is not you necessarily pushing to 112%. It's maybe going at about 95. And then on the second and third lap, really pushing the edge, seeing if you're able to take it up a notch.
Ooh, interesting to note. It seems like our second place from last week, Tabor Albaga, has only managed to put in a 2:07.2, which is well off the pace, almost 5 seconds off the current pull time, which is Sean Murphy. So I doubt that is representative. Must have had some sort of error in there. 2 more chances here now, Rachel.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to get that in. A banker lap around a track like Sebring is super important. There are many opportunities to get a 0x or a 1x here. It can happen so easily. So you've really got to measure it. The same thing would apply to someone like Spa as well. So getting a banker, getting something that's solid that will get you in a position towards the front is good. Then give it everything. You've got time.
Right now he's got about 4 minutes left, it appears. So we watch the 29 car come down here into Jean Damien once again. Just about done with his second lap already. I'm looking at his time. Yeah, it does look like he is going to improve massively, about 5 seconds up on his previous lap. And as he exits onto the Ullman Straight, that looked relatively tidy from what we've been watching here, DJ.
Yeah, it looked a little tidy, maybe a little bit too much of a clatter of the curbs there on that inside curbing, but he certainly did look well. Let's see how he takes Sunset, turn 17 here. A million different ways to try to approach this corner. He looks like he's pretty much going to split the difference, just tight at the apex, letting it run wide at the exit. Very good line for Tamer. Let's see what he'll have as he crosses over with the 2:02.1. That's going to be good enough for P2.
Wow. He's all the way up to the front row. Road Heaver just puts one down about a tenth away from the 043. So gets close, but not close enough. Facciolo holds our 4th place. Garrett Taylor, in the meantime, has not set a time either. Must have had a problem on his first lap as he comes down across the line. 2:02.201. Say that 10 times fast, and that is going to be good enough for the second row, so much closer, but behind the man who finished behind him on that first race, Rachel.
Absolutely, and if we haven't noticed already, Sean Murphy improved his lap by nearly half a second, 400s there, down to a 2:01.824. That is a huge lap there, and Albaga puts it into second place. Oh, and we've got people moving. Oh no, lap did improve slightly, but not a huge amount.
Yeah, and Garrett Taylor is only about 0.03 of a second off of Albaga. Road Heaver's only 7 more hundredths back. It's very tight in there. In fact, Stephen Kemp and Terrence Tong are separated by less than 1,000th of a second for 6th and 7th place. We're watching Road Heaver there, and there's Kemp as well, currently holding that 6th position. I'm sure he'd like to get himself a little farther away from Steven as they're both on that final lap. And I'm keeping an eye on Murphy and Albaga because they are going to be the next to cross here, DJ.
Yeah, indeed they are. So here is your current provisional pole sitter, Sean Murphy, the 2:01.825, his current best. Let's see if he's able to get anything out on this lap. I wasn't seeing a whole lot of green. That was not good enough. That's going to be a 2:02.3. Behind him, Facciolo able to bump his way up into P2, though.
Ooh, so here comes Albaga. 2:01.894. Oh, it's just shy by 0.07 of a second, but it will be back onto the front row, at least for now. Rachel, it looks like Garrett Taylor might have something to say about that, but it's going to be tight.
Yeah, really close. It's going to be so close to that one. What has he got going on here? It was a 01. He did not improve.
Taylor crosses. No, he did improve.
Yeah, he did. Oh, God, yes.
And he goes faster by a hundredth of a second over Albaga. It's extremely tight up at the front. Our top three, 7/100ths of a second between them, as we've got a few seconds left, but our top 11 on the timing sheet are all done, DJ, so I'm not expecting many people to change that order up in the front rows.
Nor am I. Will Waldron here going to be hoping to be able to put a better time in, though, from 23rd place. He crosses over the line. Doesn't look like that lap counted for Will, so he will stay in 23rd. Yeah, just ridiculously tight up at the top here, though, Joe.
15 seconds left, so nobody's able to get a time in from here, and that means Sean Murphy solidly has that pole position. Garrett Taylor is going to try to go back-to-back wins, but he's going to have to compete with both that 200 car and the 043 of Albaga, who starts from third. Then you've got Nick Facciolo in fourth, followed by Jared Roadheaver in P5. It's Stephen Kemp in the sixth position. Terrence Tong will start from seventh, followed by Michael Patterson in eighth. Logan Grado will be in P9. And DJ, it's Gary Reese starting from 10th.
In 11th, it's going to be Aaron Nations, followed by Kevin Douglas, with Eduardo Moll and Ben Leong behind them. Patrick Gill will be 15th, followed by Jake Steinbrink, with Richard Franco and Landre Salumi 17th and 18th. 19th will be Bruce Robinson, and Tom Hill will line up 20th.
21st is Chip Witt with Trey Davis in 22nd, Will Waldron in 23rd, their Volker Krebs 24th, and the Haribo Machine Canastridge in 25th, Neil Erbesh in 26th place, Mark O'Harris 27th with Kevin Heyman, George Markadakis, and Vidal Erbesh in 30th.
Andrew Elsom will start from 31st with Brett Holmes to his outside. George Boulos will be 33rd. Last two to set a time is Peter Rote and Mike Neiden. Then it's Dave Stewart, Mark Andrade, and the green flag is out as we start on race number 2, heading down into the first corner. It's looking like it is a decent start for Murphy, who immediately covers off the inside. Garrett Taylor, somebody going way off to the outside, farther back, but they didn't hit anybody as far as I can tell. Comes back 3 wide, that stays clean. Down into turn 3, a little bit of a look down to the inside, taking a lot of curb, but Albaga was not able to get there. Everybody else behind them looks like they are clear, DJ.
Yes, it does. Still a little bit of double wide as they come through the Gurney Bend right now, but they're able to make it through nice and easy. That was a big, big look, as you said, from Tamer Albaga as he tried to dive down to the inside. I'm surprised that Nick Facciolo wasn't able to get a move done on him there.
Down into the hairpin, still a little too wide there, going for the 7th position. Patterson able to overtake on Tong. Anybody else down into that sharp, slow hairpin going to have issues? Not quite yet. Oh, we had someone off in the background as our leader's already coming up to Cunningham. That was Kevin Haman in the 247, but he gets back on track. So far, so good.
Yeah, everything's looking really clean so far. It seems the guys have gotten used to these standing starts. It's definitely an improvement here. Sebring is one of those tracks I think that lends to it, the funnel into one. It doesn't encourage things from a standing position, so it makes it a little bit easier. But around this track, though, we're seeing a bigger grouping of the cars as they come around. Oh, car off to the left of the screen there. Gets back on, no trouble for anybody. It's been super clean for Sebring.
And Franco, I think, in the 32 was the off that we saw. He falls down to 22nd position. But as we ride on board, a little bit wide there for Sarumi, who's in front of us. We're watching from Waldron's perspective. Once again, much tighter down to the apex, and Will's got a fantastic run, DJ.
Yes, he does, but he's going to have to try to outbreak him here into a corner where you can take multiple lines and be successful. Waldron versus Sarumi, they're almost banging doors as they head down into the braking zone. Waldron better on the binders. Sarumi's going to have to hope he can get a better run off of the corner, but it doesn't look like he's got it. That is Will Waldron up.
And Trey Davis going way around the outside of Sunset Bend, losing multiple positions, almost banging doors again. Sarumi now and Mark Harris that are getting oh so close down into the first corner. Rachel, looks like Harris has got it for now.
This is where we're going to start to see things get a little spicy if they're going to. Of course, they've got up to speed now, so this first lap at full race speed will be the real telling one. So these guys are going to be trying to jockey for positions. This is where they're still going to start to get a little bit desperate. They've had that first lap, they're on lap 2, now they know the gaps will widen unless they do something. So people are going to put themselves in a position here, and with the cars being close together, some of them can be optimistic and some outbraking could occur like that.
Oof, and that's going to be Facciolo, who flies down into 8th position, going a little bit too wide into the hairpin. Grado just did the same thing behind him, goes all the way to the escape road before returning to the track. Oh, and the battle for the lead has suddenly erupted. Taylor has caught Murphy, is now trying to pass through the narrow Collier curve and following him through. Here comes Elbaga, 2 positions in just a couple corners, DJ.
That is some heads-up driving there from Tamer Elbaga to be able to recognize it, and he is now going to be in a side-by-side here with Garrett Taylor, who's trying to fight back on him. Taylor's going to have to go the long way around. They're going to have to be careful, and indeed, they're going to go back into single file before they get to Jean Debienne.
What was an attack became a loss of position instead for Taylor. Murphy retains the lead. And we had 2 cars off, Eskridge and Franco, towards the back of the field down in Tower. We'll try and check out, see what happened there. But looks like Murphy is not safe, Rachel, because now we've seen an attack, and I got to think that Elbaga's not going to just sit around in second. Oh, but he goes a little wide.
That's savable. That is savable. He's on a wide line, but it will give him that momentum here that could shoot out towards turn 1, so be careful with that. But if these guys battle, they have to remember the cars are all super bunched up still, so if Murphy, Taylor, and Elbaga start battling, this will bring Roadheaver, Kemp, Patterson, Tong into this battle, and we will have a real fight in our hands.
Oh, Murphy's starting to pull away just because that was another battle down into turn 1. Taylor got it back over Elbaga through the final turn. Roadheaver takes a peek into turn 3. Nothing doing. They've also got Kemp in there. Oof. And Elbaga wants this. My goodness, another time, DJ, down to the inside, but still can't snatch it.
Yeah, he is really, really pushing here, and I think for him, it's a little bit of an over-opportunistic move going down into turn 2. He would have been much better service to back off a little bit, line up the corner for an attack here down into the hairpin, rather than trying to push his luck at that corner. That just asks for a little bit of riskiness.
It's 9/10 of a second now from Murphy back to Taylor, so that really helped him out after being under threat. Hilt is just trying to catch up to Chip Witt here. Someone once again going a little bit wide. That's going to be Neil Urbesh, who's going to be under attack from Krebs. Volker has a better exit as they come through Fangio. I don't think he's going to be close enough, though. And no, Rachel looks like he's going to stay back there. Oh, there goes Tom Hilt to the inside, though.
Big move by Hill, really getting that car set up in position for this section here. It's, of course, a sequence where you have to make the pass either at the start or by the end of it, because you aren't really doing any passing in between it. It can be defended, but you didn't there. Secured it nicely. Marco Harris on board here. He's going to take the Valley Region driver. Just looking forward towards this whole grouping. This is really tight work. We've got Reese ahead, Waldron up there, Young just ahead of them. This is really heated up. But these guys, we're seeing a lot of cars go wide here. The tyres should be up to temperature by now.
And I was making noises, apologies, because Chip Witt had an off just as we cut away. Side by side through Collier did not go well. In fact, banged doors with Albie Blanco, who was also able to overtake. So a bad couple of corners went even worse for Chip Witt. In fact, he's down to 33rd because of that. By the way, we had a black flag for Richard Franco for an incident earlier in the race. And so he is going to have to serve a drive-through penalty because of that. Down into the first corner, a little bit of side-by-side, but looks like Grotto's going to give that up. DJ, Mark Harris retains 16th.
Yeah, a little bit opportunistic there for Logan Grotto. I like the look there as he goes down in, just seeing if he can maybe force Harris off the line, but not quite enough. Now, here's what he's going to want to do is try to line that corner up coming through turn 2. This tricky back and forth, see if he can do it. You can see the damage there to the front of Grotto's machine. That may be slowing him down in the front line ever so slightly. And with the damage to the splitter, I certainly think that's going to be affecting his front tire grip.
A whole bunch of cars in front of him, but if you don't have the speed, you can't overtake them. That's Reese, Waldron up there, Lung. Kevin Douglas is in there, almost like a buffet, but unfortunately doesn't have a plate as we come into, looks like Tower Corner with Roadheaver now. Elbaga's gone from attack to defense a little bit.
Yeah, he has, and Elbaga's that guy at the buffet that's sticking his elbows out, trying to make space to try and get to the next part of the trays a little bit quicker. You know, he's in the line, but he wants to get a little bit further along, so he's making himself some room. digging in with the elbows there, but this is definitely showing us a very different race to what we've seen, I think, previously. Previous races we've had at Sebring have been a little bit more calm, and they separated quickly. This is an absolute scrum. In fact, we've mentioned before, this used to be a B-17 training base during the Second World War. Well, you'd think they had Mustangs here, because these guys are dogfighting all over the field.
Yeah, this has been impressive stuff, but we are getting to the higher classes here on Friday evening. Up next is going to be the pros if you're joining us for the first time. So get ready for even more intense racing. But we're watching from the gearbox of Sean Murphy, and Garrett Taylor has gained back about 0.4 of a second. It is now half a second between them. So I'm starting to think that Taylor might have just slightly better pace here, DJ.
Yeah, I think so too. And I've been keeping an eye on his car. He looks a little bit more planted with the wheel. He's a little bit more controlled with it. And he's very aggressive in the way he's taking the corners, but it's controlled aggression. He's getting the car to do exactly what he wants it to do. And that tells me that that is a driver in sync with his machinery.
So we head back to Road Heaver's perspective once again. Just kind of hounding Tamer for the moment. Kemp also right behind them, creating a trio, third, fourth, and fifth down into Cunningham once more. If they can't find some pace, they might get a fourth one. Patterson's not too far behind. As we jump behind them a little farther, that green car is Patrick Gill, and deep into the corner, Steinbrink almost having a go at things, Rachel.
Yeah, taking a look there, not quite found an option from 11th place here. Steinbrink is keeping his eyes open there towards Gill, and Gill is swimming as fast as he can. He's looking at Iron Nation saying, please tow me forwards. As right now, here they go, Almond Straight, and this could be, not Almond Straight, so a little bit early for that. We're approaching Le Mans, actually, as we come up to here. This will be a real setup here for him. Did Steinbrink do something here? This will be his best opportunity.
And Tom Hilt caused quite a commotion back there. He's involved in a bit of an incident with Volker Krebs, unfortunately, and then backed across the track in Collier when a whole pack was coming through. I'm actually kind of amazed. I don't think anybody hit him.
I don't think anybody did, but there was a lot of strained emotions as we watch here. Gill trying to make this move on Steinbrink, holding it out the long way around Sunset. Is the momentum going to help out Patrick Gill? Steinbrink has it. Ooh!
Things getting aggressive now as they get their elbows out, making side-to-side contact. Can't get away with that too many times here, especially through the corners. It looks like Steinbrink gives that one up. There was a chance for Douglas, but unfortunately, he could not get his nose in. Well, Rachel, we've gone from cutting in line, and now people are throwing blows.
Oh, no. This is no longer the buffet. This is the ice cream kind of sundae machine at Pizza Hut, and the kids are throwing punches right now, trying to be the one that gets to the sprinkles first. As Reese is off the track there. This is how you rejoin the racetrack, by the way, folks. If you've spun off, you wait for a gap.
Yeah, great patience by him shown there. Tom Hilt was already given a black flag for that re-entry. It looks like he had slight contact, but he definitely caused a bunch of people to have to take evasive maneuvers just to get around him, so it's no wonder he wound up getting that flag flown at him. As we come back on board now into Collier once again. This entire pack, starting with Patrick Gill at the front of them, intense, stretching back, DJ. It looks like all the way to Mark Harrison, 16th.
Yeah, it is a big train of cars, and you're really getting the sense that if one makes a mistake, everybody else is going to pounce. Looking a little bit like Jake Steinbrink was going to have a move there on Patrick Gill as they came around Bishop Bend and now down into Jean de Bienne. Everything getting very close. Now into the crucial Le Mans corner. Who's going to be able to get the draft and be able to get a move done down the Almond Straight?
Doesn't look like anybody's got a good enough one right now. If they do, I think the top two might be our best bet, Gill and Steinbrink. And nope, nothing doing for them. Also a little bit close there. We were watching Waldron and Grotto as they fly in. Oh, but it looks like Waldron's 2 wide inches away from the wall, Rachel. And catastrophe averted, but Will lost a bunch of positions. Oh, Road Heaver's off.
He is, yes. I think we've already had our Road Heaver off at least once before. We had 2 cars there, so likely 2 involved. I'll have to find out what happened to those guys. Got a replay for you here. In fact, as they come through go.
It was Krebs. Oh, Krebs, I think, was coming out of the pit lane. Oh, and I've seen this so many times, Rachel, where it's just kind of blind coming out of there.
Yeah, can we get a cleanup on aisle 3? Someone spilled the Haribo.
Things get a little bit sticky from that one. Both drivers having to turn back around and get rolling. And actually, Krebs is still in the thick of things. Mark Harris, I think, just had a pass as well. Here we see Krebs with all kinds of drivers all around.
Yeah, Joe, and this is right now Will Waldron and Mark Harris going side by side. Waldron barely able to get around, trying to use Krebs there as a pick, almost getting into the side of him. Krebs just hanging on for dear life, but that is going to give him a little bit of breathing room. It does give to Waldron as Mark Harris now has to try to get his way around.
Well, now Volker is unfortunately a little bit of a plug for him. Harris having to deal with that lap traffic, and he goes wide, 4 wheels in the dirt. Here comes Trey Davis, says thank you very much. That chicken wing has not been on the floor for more than 5 seconds, so that's mine.
Why do you have to keep making food puns today? This is crazy. Also, I realized that I may have made a culturally confusing remark about Pizza Hut and the ice cream machines. Turns out that's just a UK thing, and we don't have Golden Corral here, so I was trying to find something to make a simile about, or a metaphor for racing purposes, and well, there you go.
Well,
you guys have got ice cream machines, right?
I was going to say, most buffets have soft serve here, so yeah, I was just rolling with it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, cool, we'll go with that then, just not Pizza Hut, never mind. We'll pretend it's one of the other ones. So why are we talking about so much food? Everything's food. Race cars, they're covered in Haribo. It's just, if you're on a diet, this is a terrible series to watch. But if you're not, and you're like us, then it's an awesome series to watch. But as we actually get back to the racing for a moment here, the gap between Murphy and Taylor's under half a second right now. As Joe, this is just looking to be a super tight run here, but Albaga's dropped nearly 3 seconds on them. Is he out of the race? At least for the win.
Yeah, down to 4th, Kemp into 3rd. Taylor nowhere to be seen, but also blinking a little bit. I'm actually on a bit of a low cholesterol diet myself right now, so maybe I should stop talking about this. As Kemp is being followed closely by Tamer, who still wants to try and catch up. And 0.2 of a second. Oh, it's going to become less than that. Is he going to show his nose? But DJ, he can't make it in.
No, can't quite make it in. That's a very, very tight space to try to force that in going into Cunningham. Again, Tamer Albaga just seeing a little over-aggressive here. Anytime he has a chance to make a move, he's going for it. And I think he needs to be a little bit more restrained. Think through these moves a little bit more and really plan them out rather than just going on impulse.
Yeah, it does seem to be somewhat willy-nilly. But, I mean, credit to him. He's making sure that he is always involved in whatever there is happening out there. Oh, Ben Leon in the 290 has turned himself around. It looks like he's hit the wall out of tower. He's got it back out on track. And it was on the left side that he was in contact with the wall. So I think he's okay because it didn't look too bad there. Meanwhile, on to the Ullman straight. We got the quartet of Grotto, Waldron. Oh, well, trio now because Mark Harris just spun, Rachel.
Yeah, he did, and it's been happening quite a lot. We've seen a lot of these guys just getting loose in this track. It's the bumpiness is upsetting them under braking, I'm thinking, and the people running wide here, it's just catching cars completely unaware. So just such a problem. We've got a replay here, Mark Harris. You see him come through here. There's a bit too much curb there, but he's okay. And then we come into Le Mans, and he's fine. And then, oh, it's the back end stepping out, exiting the corner, but he, held him.
Nice. Nice job. I thought that was going for the barrier, but never made contact. So hold your breath, but thankfully it stayed clean. Meanwhile, Patrick Gill, who we ride on board with, sits just inside the top 10. He is sandwiched, though. It is Douglas and Steinbrink on either side. There's that food again.
Yes, there is, Joe. But as we continue to watch this battle, trying to see if there's anything to be done going down into the heavy braking zone of the hotel hairpin, doesn't appear to be so, as the 46 of Jake Steinbrink able to stretch that gap a little bit. That's just a better launch off of the corner. He'll be able to buy himself a little bit of breathing room.
Douglas is currently up 1 from where he started. Gill up 5, but Steinbrink up 7. They're all topped by Waldron, but he is about 1.5 seconds behind them currently. Based on his gains, I wouldn't be surprised, though, if he was able to rock up to the back of these three, especially if they start fighting is a little bit farther ahead down into Jean de Bien. We're watching Terrence Tong, and this is Patterson, and no, excuse me, Facciolo behind him, rather, that we're looking at currently, about half a second back.
Yeah, they're in there right now, but the gap is just holding on here. It's not changed much for us, which is signifying they both got the speed, but I think they're settling into this rhythm here of making sure the cars are static for this race. Ooh. Maybe save the fight for the end.
El Baga just got the spot back, or he might not yet. No, Kemp is still side by side. Out of Sunset Bend, they drag race to the first corner. Kemp on the outside. A little bit of an advantage to Tamer, and now that he gets back to the racing line, he is through, cut back from Kemp, taking a little bit of a peak, but covered off down to the apex of 3, DJ.
And look how just late on the binders there Michael Patterson was. That battling has allowed him to close up the gap to be within about 0.5 of a second as well. So this is turning into a 3-car battle for that final podium spot.
Steinbrink has now pitted. Now that's interesting. Halfway mark of the race. So he's trying to cut it part way. Maybe he's not happy with all the battling that was happening around him. And down through Big Bend. This is looking mighty close with Will Waldron hunting down Kevin Douglas, and in fact is going to outbrake him massively. Oh, behind him, a big contact from behind. I think that was Grotto getting into Douglas, and Waldron got inside of Patrick Gill at the same time. It's all kicking off, Rachel, but thankfully nobody wound up off the track.
Yeah, nobody did, which is really, really lucky there, but I got a little spicy. Yeah, that happened. That was, brakes are a good thing.
Oof. That's spicier than hot sauce on a chalupa there as they came through the hairpin. But now coming back out, Gill leads this group. Douglas second in line there, and that's Trey Davis third. Grotto winds up in fourth of them, and that is 12th position that he sits of that quartet currently. Down through Le Mans one more time. The lead is changing because Murphy's pitting. So Taylor stays out, but Murphy comes in.
Very interesting decision there, Joe. We normally see these guys try to stretch their fuel a little bit longer. I think Sean Murphy may just spot a hole in traffic that he's able to get himself into. That's clearly what he's going to be going for here. Does not want to be bogged down by some slower cars.
So we should be looking at about 10 to 12 second stops for most of the drivers for fuel. We now watch Gary Reese here, the number 9, chasing 17th position, which is Ben Leung, who, as we mentioned before, had a bit of an off. And they might actually be right alongside our leader here. Yeah, there you can see him coming out. So hopefully he is clear, but he's not going to be out of traffic. I don't know if this is the right time. He doesn't have anybody directly in front of him, but surely, Rachel, he is going to be catching Mole, who is up the road by about 3 seconds or so, 2 seconds.
Yeah, he absolutely is, and this is a trickier part for him now because he's going to have to worry about all this traffic, and this isn't a very wide track, so you really have to get them in the right places because this could eat up time. This could bring him back to third, fourth, fifth.
And that was an already lapped car, so that wasn't for position. Mole saw the blue flag, got out of the way when he saw the former leader there. So that made that one easy for Murphy. Now he's got a little bit of clear road before Will Waldron is up next. We check in on Facciolo, who is fighting for what has become 5th place thanks to Sean Murphy's pit stop. Terrence Tong in the 388 that you could see there in front of him. Will either of them pit this time by as you see them swing wide, DJ, coming up towards Le Mans, which is all fair game.
It certainly is, but a little bit of a narrower line there for Nick Facciolo, just trying to take the better apex rather than, I think, trying to carry momentum. But it's clearly working for him as he's able to get that gap under 0.5 of a second now. I would imagine here, if I am Nick Facciolo, I would think about pitting because he looks a little stalled on the last 2 laps, just like it's didn't exactly work out for him now that he's close behind in the draft, but he's going to stay out and try to get this done on track.
Nobody else, it seems, of the front runners who are pitting this time. So down to 17 minutes left to go. I'm looking through, and I've seen about a dozen cars that have been down pit lane. Looks like Aaron Nations is going to be the next one in the 7 to hit that. Oh, looks like Brett Holmes as well. So there is a couple mid-packers that are willing to gamble here. And we'll see how that plays out in the end. Coming around Big Bend one more time. This is much closer between Facciolo and Tong. Tong's going to hold to the inside, leaves a little bit of a door open. They're both going to have to brake supremely late. And it looks like Tong's going to hold it for now, Rachel, but Facciolo starting to really pile on the pressure.
Yeah, absolutely is, and this is where he really needs to put that pressure into the race here to keep himself going, to keep this car in the right position here. And with the pit cycle going through, we're going to have things a little bit messier than I think that perhaps they would like. And this could be a critical time for them to really make sure they're getting every advantage they can, and you don't want things like that getting buckled up.
Yep, that was Murphy having to overtake Waldron. He's caught him, and now he's definitely losing time with these overtakes compared to Taylor, Abaga, Kemp, Patterson, who have all been running single file at the front of the field. This is where this could hurt this 200 machine. We ride with Sean Murphy, DJ, and see how he handles the next ones up the road. That's going to be Robinson and Harris.
Well, and crucially, just like Waldron behind him, they're all involved in a battle, so they're not going to be nice necessarily and let him on by. They have got to try to maintain track position as much as they can. Murphy, I'm beginning to think this strategy, he didn't have a clear air. He was just going for the sort of logical decision to break this thing up halfway, and it may be coming back to bite him.
Ooh, Elbaga, though, will be pitting in this time. Looks like the other two around him will not pit in. Patterson doesn't. Tong and Facciolo do not. In fact, looks like Facciolo might have a good run here. Looking for the inside into turn 1. The 717 might have a pass on his hands. He at least gets Tong off of the apex. And now he gets a second chance at it. Rachel heading to turn 3.
Yeah, he does, and this will be a great opportunity for him to do something with this, as him and Tong really pushing things, getting on the curbs, bouncing those cars. Looks always so good seeing that sort of racing, wheel to wheel, side by side here, but keeping respectful room here. But the side by side is bringing other cars in, it's bringing everyone so much closer.
Back to Sean Murphy now, up into 7th. Yeah, it looks like those he was racing with have mostly pitted. So he's got a little more clear air once again. It's Mark Harris there in the 981 that still remains in front of him. But definitely fewer obstacles in his way. Next driver out with the pit stop done is Elbaga, who's a couple cars behind. And it looks like about 5 seconds behind. So didn't quite pan out for the 043, DJ.
No, it really did not, and I think that's really because of getting held up in traffic, as we talked about. But we jump back here with Terrence Tong as he is trying to see what he can do on Nick Facciolo.
Man, I'm impressed with Facciolo, aggressive enough to try and make the move, and now having to play defense as well. Tong really wants it a little deep into the corner, though, into Jean Debien. That's going to make Nick a bit slow. Onto the Ullman straight. This is where he needs the launch from that grip on the rear wheels, Rachel, and it looks like he found it.
Yeah, really got a great kick off the corner there, and that benefited him hugely coming down the straight here. It gives him that gap, that little bit of extra sauce, just to keep himself out of draft range, because it's one of the big passing chances here down into Sunset.
So last lap was a 2:03.5 for Murphy. Taylor ran a 2:03.3. This time, though, Taylor is in, so we won't get an accurate reading. Where is Murphy going to come out in all of this? Was he quicker? Taylor's hit his pit stall. We ride with Murphy, who still has a little bit of traffic in front of him, who I'm guessing is pitting. Yes, they pull off. He'll have a clear shot down the front stretch, but did it hold him up at all? It looks like Taylor's moving. He is rolling. This is going to be very, very tight. He's not going to have the same speed into the corner, but he's going to have the track position. And indeed, Taylor has the lead, Rachel.
Oh, that is huge. The undercut and the pit stop was massive for him there, or the overcut, I should say, because he came in much later, which isn't what you really expect, but considering they're only taking fuel, not tires, Yeah, I could see it being a big benefit for him. Of course, the benefit of going in earlier for Kemp would be if this was a tire race, and it's not.
And the pits also had a little something to do with that because it was about a second quicker for Taylor. On top of that, about a second quicker out on track as well between them. Murphy having to deal with that lap traffic, kicking some dust up. DJ, it looks like Taylor knows he has got to turn the wick up now.
Yeah, he knows that outright speed that Sean Murphy has, and so he is going to have to really, really push it here. And now as they come upon some lap traffic, that's going to play into things as well, as he's going to have to be careful. Jumping back here, this is Trey Davis trying to make a move on Patrick Gill, going down into the hotel hairpin. Looks like he let off a little bit, but tries to be later on the binders. Oh!
And side-by-side contact between them, but Davis looks a little slow. Is he damaged from that one? They kind of hit on the corner there, which could mean disaster for him. So now Kevin Douglas is trying to find his way past, slots into the line, breaks a little deeper, but can't get the overtake, Rachel.
No, just can't quite find a way through that gap, and it was so close, but sometimes those opportunities they slip through your fingers so easily. Just might not have had quite the traction just to apply it, and I think he's going to have to wait for another chance.
Look at the nose, though, of the 217, DJ. It is in terrible condition. He has got to be a sitting duck in a straight line, I would think.
Yeah, a straight line, and as we mentioned before, damage on the front end of that splitter, that's going to affect his front end grip. He is really going to struggle to get that car turned in, and that could really, really hurt him, specifically coming through Le Mans like that. If he is having to put more wheel into the car, that just means more speed you're going to scrub as you're coming through the corner.
So far, it looks like he's got enough slipstream from Gill. It's kind of not affecting him as badly as I would have anticipated. Under braking, he does fine. It's still Kevin Douglas that we ride with, who's trying to attack. And what happened to Patrick Gill there? Gill is pitting. He's got a black flag. Oh, I bet this is incident limits. I think this is a drive-through penalty for Patrick Gill. As we go side by side through turn one, Rachel, and coming down through the rest of the way into 3, Harris on the inside of Douglas. He's got him.
Yeah, he really has, and oh, wow, yeah, just really pulling through that one. Got everything he wanted out of the positioning, but it's going to be super close here. They've only 9 minutes left. They're all pitted. These positions are literally now final, depending on how they can get themselves through. Not finalized in race position, but what they get now is going to be based on track position and driving ability and speed and what you've got left with these tires.
Yeah, Sean Murphy's hoping it's not final. He's lost his lead, and he's got to try and make it up. He's still about 1.3 seconds back. In 9 minutes, that's not impossible. Maybe he could use a little bit of the prayer that he offered up before the race. I love this. He told everyone, may the road rise up to meet you. May your competition be always at your back. May you brake early for turn one and not get bumped off the track. May your livery shine bright in the sun of Sebring, and hopefully you won't highlight the experience you lack. Isn't that beautiful?
I think that's a Bob Dylan lyric.
Mark O. Harris in the number 981. Currently trying to see if he could get Brett Holmes out of 12th position. Wow, this is actually a lot of cars together here in this group. Prado's up at the front of them. Then it's Trey Davis, Brett Holmes in there, Mark Harris, Kevin Douglas, and Will Waldron.
Yeah, indeed it is, Joe. You can see that line there. Everybody trying to weave just a little bit, get the maximum of the draft as there's a little bit of a poke. I think that's Douglas trying to make the look. No, it's Brett Holmes trying to make a look. Everybody concertinaing down into this corner.
Davis around the outside, way around the outside, almost off to the grass, so on it goes towards the first turn. This means David's gonna have the inside. Just about gives enough space before he runs into the side of Brett Holmes into the first corner. Now Holmes is vulnerable, and he's got to avoid making contact with Mark Harris, who finds an opening, cuts back across, just gives enough width, and Holmes goes too deep, locks it up, and comes to a halt.
Oh, that was exciting. I'm loving watching this now. This race has picked up again here, and we're seeing now the gap here is about a second at the moment between Taylor and Murphy. So this is going to be really critical in terms of timing for these guys on the racetrack. Murphy really has to find something special here He's got to try and pump this thing up a little bit more. The Palmetto region driver really needs to try and find that little moment of whatever he can do, because Taylor is hungry for this race, although it might not be his control.
Well, that was an elementary mistake from Holmes, making him look a little bit more like Watson. That put him to 16th. Meanwhile, Murphy still on the chase, cutting it down from 1.3 seconds now to half a second. And we check back in as well, farther back in the pack, into that group that we were watching before. Davis has dropped off of Grotto, and he's got Mark Harris getting very, very close.
Yes, he does. Harris all over the back of Davis here. Let's see what he can do. He's trying to put him offline through Le Mans. I like that strategy, Jean Demian rather. I like that strategy from him, just trying to force his car into where he's not. Here comes maybe that straight line disadvantage that we talked about for Davis, and here comes Harris to the inside, and somebody's around in the back. That's Will Waldron.
Oh, Will Waldron, and it looks like he is in the wall there. He's able to back it out. If he did hit the wall, it must have been light, because I'm not seeing much damage on the nose. Let's take another look at it, see if he actually did wind up coming into the tires. And, oh, just slightly, Rachel.
A little kiss, just a little friendly nudge. Just a little prod. No, he got out of that with surprisingly little damage, considering what it could have been. Losing it out of that Mans can really be a race ender if you're not careful.
Also an update, Albie Blanco was given a drive-through penalty for incident limits. Came in and served that and has come back out. And when the leaders are starting to catch some traffic, that is Richard Franco that they just went by. So that could also play a factor in this. Now down to 5 minutes left to go. Sean Murphy dropping back a couple tenths from how close he was before. Taylor maybe responding, DJ.
Yeah, indeed. And the fourth microsector on the lap, Taylor actually went purple. And where we were seeing tenths gained in those microsectors for Sean Murphy, it's now really started to equalize out. And Taylor has been able to pull away, looking specifically at the first and third microsectors there. So definitely starting to pull away a little bit here is Taylor. I think he was maybe just saving his stuff for the end, maybe laying back on the tires a little bit, and now he's in full push mode.
Yeah, you got to think so. And coming through the first corner, 0.6 of a second down from the 0.8 it was earlier in the lap. I'm keeping half an eye on this, half an eye on the battle for 10th, which remains incredibly tight between 4 cars currently. There you see them on screen. That 981 is Mark Harris, who's going to make it a 3-car fight because now he spins off. Wow, Rachel, it seems like Le Mans Corner is Calamity Corner today.
I think it always is. It's one of those corners where you're carrying a lot of speed. You're trying to push here because you know how important speed on the Almond Straight is. It's vital to your lap. It's vital to getting a pass or to keeping a position. You've got to give it the beans coming out of that corner. And the more people are trying to come out of a corner fast, the more likely they are to spin them out.
Well, now you're the one talking about food. So as we come out of Sunset, beans? Are they not food anymore?
That is true.
As they come down through the main straight, 3 minutes left to go. The 981 from that mistake falls all the way to 15th. And in front of him, that is Bruce Robinson in the 386, weaving their way through. This used to be a long left-hand arc instead of these weaving S's. And then comes back into another long arc, the right-hander of Big Bend down to the hairpin, DJ. I think Robinson might be under threat here from Harris.
He's certainly indicating that he is. Harris tries to dive down to the inside. Robinson tries to shut the door, but Harris getting those right side tires onto the grass, and that's the 386 around. That's Robinson spinning it.
Well, it's spreading now as we saw one spin and now another one. And did Gary Reese have a problem? Yeah, he was slow coming out of that corner too. So something happening with a lot of cars here late in the race. I'm wondering, Rachel, if tires are starting to go off a little bit side by side between Robinson and Waldron, and Waldron comes out ahead, but we jump back to the battle between Taylor and Murphy.
Yeah, and this is one of those tracks that's incredibly hard on tires. It's abrasive and it's bumpy, and when it's bumpy, there's a good chance one of them might not be fully on the ground when you're braking heavily. So you can really get uneven wear on a track like Sebring, when the brakes and the tires will be both very hot and very worn. So yeah, later in the race, you're going to see tires starting to fade. The grip will not be as reliable.
I think we're going to be getting white flag next time by for these guys. As they go by another lapped car. This time it's going to be Tom Hilt, down 8 positions from where he began. And now the latest car that will not complete all the laps in today's race. See 27 of them currently still on the lead lap. That's not too bad out of 38 starters, especially with 3 of them officially DNF'd. Gary Reese is, in the meantime, in pit lane, serving his black flag for too many incidents too. And we continue to watch here, DJ. Murphy, I'm kind of surprised he's caught him, but can't seem to really get close enough to try and go by.
Yeah, he was able to gain back a little bit of time on that last lap. By the way, our closer 0.2 of a second he did gain on the last lap, but it just seems like there's sort of that invisible wall that's really preventing Murphy from being able to get that last little bit on Taylor.
Coming around Le Mans, and it looks like Sean Murphy's starting to drop once again. It's up to 0.9 of a second. Taylor doing an amazing job. Last time it was Elbaga that he had to fend off. This time it's Murphy. And man, my hat's off to him, Rachel, because despite pressure, despite having to also be on the other end and be on the attack, the start of the season has shown this 529 driver to really be something else as he takes the white flag.
Yeah, Garrett Taylor really has done an impressive job today. As a driver, the Kansas City guy has really put a huge amount of work into this thing. A fantastic run so far from him. Really been showing us a class act in the races we've had this season, and he's been a promising one and could be looking at possibly a championship contender.
No doubt. I mean, kicking it off with 2 wins would make you a contender, I think. It's only a 8-race season, series rather. So he is certainly going to be off to a great start. Was covering a little bit down into the hotel hairpin once again, but Murphy's not nearly close enough, I think, to be a serious threat as we finally hit 0 on the timer. Elbaga, by the way, is still a good 5.7 seconds back. He's got Kemp and Patterson close. Well, just Kemp, I should say. That's a lapped car behind him. But I'm not sure if he's going to give that one up, as that's a similar distance to what we see here at DJ. A little too far, really, for a serious threat.
Yeah, he's going to have to try to close up. The biggest thing here that Murphy can do is just nail these next couple of corners going into Jean Debienne and Le Mans. And even then, it may be a little bit too late for him to be able to pull this off.
Just a couple more corners, but Murphy's starting to creep a little closer, cutting into that lead onto the Ullman straight. He's about 0.7 of a second back. Weaving now. Garrett Taylor just wants to cover off all possibilities, trying to break that slipstream. It comes down to 0.6 of a second. And down into the braking zone. He goes a little bit wide, but so does Murphy. That was a Hail Mary. And unfortunately, that prayer didn't work. So it's Garrett Taylor in the meantime in the 529 who takes the win in race 2.
Oh, fantastic run by Taylor. He really showed a good run here. Solid performance. It was the pit stops that made it for him. It was pitting slightly later, making for a slightly shorter stop. Considering they both had the same tyres at the end, it seems to be the winning strategy. We've seen it a few times now in a few different classes, so the late pit is the thing to do.
Meanwhile, on the main straight, Steinbrink trying to chase Facciolo, does not go in Jake's favor as he winds up in 8th position. Kevin Douglas, he could have a shot here. That's Trey Davis, but Davis is quicker off the corner. He'll get 11th. Looking through to see if there's any other battles. Looks like Leung being chased by Waldron and Robinson. But nope, that's not going to give them anything either. And of our 27 drivers on the lead lap, there's no one who is within 1.5 seconds of each other from here. So that should be pretty much order set. And up at the top, I am seeing Garrett Taylor once again leading the sheet, and it is Sean Murphy this time who comes home in second. El Baga, though, back-to-back podiums, just this time one step farther down. Stephen Kemp was fourth, with Michael Patterson in the fifth position. Terrence Tong finished P6. It was Nick Facciolo in seventh, Jake Steinbrink in eighth, and Aaron Nations in P9. Then Grotto rounds out your top 10, DJ.
In 11th, it was Trey Davis, followed by Kevin Douglas, with Brett Holmes and Mark Harris behind them. Lanre Salumi was able to come home P15, followed by Ben Leong and Will Waldron. Bruce Robinson was 18th, with Dave Stewart behind Tim, and Patrick Gill rounds out your top 20.
21st is Chip Whit with Ken Eskridge, 22nd, Neil Urbesh in 23rd, Gary Reese 24th, Kevin Harmon in 25th, Mike Knight in 26th, and George Makadakis in 27th. Behind them, one lap down, Richard Franco, Tom Hiltz, Albie Blanco in 30th.
Then it is Andrew Elsom who finished in 31st, Vidal Urbesh in 32nd, followed by Peter Rote in 33rd. Eduardo Mole, who we saw have to get out of the way of the leaders, finished 34th. Volker Krebs, who got involved in a messy incident coming out of the pits at one point, had to settle for 35th. Poulos 36th, Roadheaver 37th in a DNF, along with Andrade behind him. As that is going to take us to our winner for the second time in a row, Garrett Taylor. And as we talk to Garrett, congratulations. It looked like you had a fight on your hand in the first half, and definitely a fight in the second half, but sort of on the other side of the window.
Yeah, definitely. I got by Sean in the pit sequence, and thankfully we had just enough of a gap we could stay in front of him.
Were you a bit surprised to see Sean pit as early as he did, and did you expect to come out ahead of him?
I wasn't surprised he pitted early because I think we were slowing each other down, but I was surprised that I came out in front because my laps while he was in were not great, and I really thought I was going to come out 2 or 3 seconds behind him. So
well, the traffic that did not pit definitely bit him, and I think that was the saving grace there. After that, though, you seemed to manage it well. We talked as we came into the show about how you kept El Baga behind you by only 0.2 of a second last time. It was a bit of a wider margin for this one, but it seems like you seem very cool under pressure. Is that a strength that you feel like you have?
I'd say it's a developing one. It's still a work in progress.
Well, I'd say it's looking like a bright, shining talent pretty soon if you keep this up. Congratulations. Anybody you want to thank for this victory?
I'd like to thank my wife again tonight for taking care of the kids and letting me have a Friday evening to do this. So
that was Garrett Taylor, your victor in the 529 car, as DJ is now caught up with Sean Murphy in the number 200, who just couldn't get that lead back.
I have indeed. And Sean, let's start here at about the middle of the race. You were one of the first drivers to peel off into the pits. Talk me through the decision process there.
Well, I thought, the tires were getting a bit hot. I was starting to lose grip, so I thought, okay, I'm kind of pulling Garth around behind me. Maybe I can pit, cool the tires down, get some fast laps in. Didn't quite work out. I think I probably put in a little bit extra gas too. I'm not used to running this far up the grid, so a few rookie mistakes.
Well, I wouldn't call the rest of your driving a rookie mistake, as you really were trying to put the pressure to Garrett there at the end. Talk me through those last couple of laps, because it seemed like you were tantalizingly close to being able to retake the lead.
Yeah, I was able to get through turn one quite a bit faster. I think after the pit stop, I picked up maybe 1.5 seconds over 2 laps. I think I was able to, my line through T1 with the tires losing grip was just had a little bit more pace. But as they say, catching is one thing, getting past is another. So just didn't have what I needed.
Well, is Sebring one of your sort of track-specific areas, or can we expect you to see upward towards the front of the grid here throughout the rest of the season as we go to Summit Point next and throughout the rest?
Yeah, I mean, last week I actually got into the rig with a fever because I was sick, so I didn't get a lot of practice in last week. I was just hoping to survive, so I was quite happy with P8 last week. I do know this track a little bit from endurance racing, so that helps a lot. Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town next weekend, so that's going to be my drop race. So I'll be back in 2 weeks' time.
Well, we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks then, Sean. Anybody you'd like to thank for this second place run today?
Well, I mean, the whole PCA has been amazing and helped me get to this point to be able to get on the podium finally. Lots of people helped me out along the way, and obviously my wife and kids for putting up with all the practice time that takes away from family time. And for podium, you guys make this thing awesome. Like, it's just brings it to a whole nother level.
Well, thank you very much. We are more than happy to do it. That was Sean Murphy, your second place finisher here today. And Rachel, I believe you've caught up with our third place finisher.
Yeah, I certainly have Tamara Elbaga here in third place. A busy race for you. Started third, finished third, but at the beginning it seemed like you were really up for a good scrap there.
Yeah, I just it looked like it was going to be close. Again, similar pace for us guys. Great drive for the guys up front, Garrett and Sean. And then just I got a little distracted. Was a little out of sorts. Some lap traffic took me off the track a little bit. I got distracted, and yeah, that kind of set me back. And the pace was too quick in the front.
Now, these things, of course, are going to happen in racing. But what's Sebring been like for you as a track?
I love this track. I mean, this is it's I think we talked about last week. It's very different than Watkins Glen. That super bumpy, trying to hold the control of this car everywhere around here is a challenge. But I think they probably couldn't have picked a better car on a better track in terms of the challenge. It beat me today, but that's okay. It was fun nevertheless.
That's all that matters, really, if it's fun or not.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
Yeah, again, I mean, thanks to you guys for putting on the show and the sponsors, and yeah, my family for giving me some space to do this. So, yep.
It's always the family that needs to be thanked the most. Thanks for joining us, Tamara Elbaga, in third place tonight.
Thank you.
Which is going to take us to a quick break. Don't forget, we have more racing coming up in just a moment as the pros now take to Sebring in Series 8 for the PCA Sim Racing Series. Welcome back to Sebring International Raceway. Once again, we are here for the Pro Class race of PCA Sim Racing Series 8 live here on Podium Esports. But a reminder that PCA Sim Racing's social media offers up in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. We're in the midst of the quali session already for that Pro Class, and Rafael Amorim is looking fast once again. Chris Pies is trying to change that. It is a pretty hefty gap, DJ. It's about 0.4 of a second from P1 to P2, but from what we've seen of these guys in the Pro Class, I suspect that this is going to narrow up here in quali.
Yeah, I certainly do as well, Joe. I think the driver's probably putting down their bankers here as their first lap, and it's going to be this second lap that the fire really starts to get intense on these drivers. We watch Charles Yao here working his way around, trying to see if he's got a little bit of speed to be able to wiggle out of this car.
He's still got to put one on the board. He had a mistake or something on the first lap that deleted it. So as he comes around, it's imperative that he keeps it between the boundaries to the finish. I'm also keeping an eye on Pies and Amorim to see if they improve on their 209 and 2012. Pies doesn't improve, and Amorim does improve. So our pole sitter extends it to over 0.5 of a second. Let's see if anybody else is going to go any quicker. Huth doesn't have that lap counted. And yeah, none of the others within the top 10 seem to really be getting any closer to Amorim, Rachel.
That's going to be the critical thing for this one. Amorim is fast. Pies got to really bring this one out. So is Peterson. He could also be a contender. We can't count him out.
Absolutely. Martineau here in 7th position. The start of another lap. This is Peterson now on your screen in the 913. And as he flies through the hairpin, just kicking up a lot of that dust. I think he was within the boundaries on that. I don't think that one will discount the lap. So hopefully he should be good to try and get a little bit quicker this time by. Instead, we head over to Travis Brody as well, sitting in 6th position, about a second off of the pole. Saw Brody have quite a few battles back at Watkins Glen, DJ. Let's see if he can get stuck in again.
Yeah, certainly. He's going to want to try to repeat that good success. Right now, he's about 0.9 of a second off of Amorim, but only 81 thousandths off of Joe Stifel in front of him. It is very, very tight here across the entire field, with the exception of really Rafael Amorim and Chris Pies. Everybody else is just fractions of a second away from each other.
I'm just disappointed that Travis didn't have a giant hat on his head at the same time, but as we take another glance at him coming down the Ullman straight. So the number 20 is about, it's not looking good on this lap. I don't think he's going to improve based on what I'm seeing for his time. So we head on over to Jacob Schum, who is down through Jean Debienne himself in 12th place. Just a couple more corners. Oh, I'm proven wrong. Brody did improve, but he gets shuffled down into 7th as Rubel just went by the line. He goes up into 4th, and down here in 12th to 56. How does he take it through Sunset Bend? So many different ways to attack this corner, Rachel. Which way does he go?
Well, it's going to depend, of course. It'll depend every lap on the line he gets in, the line he wants to get out, if he's in traffic or not. But the widest line, of course, is probably the best when you take that entry very, very tight. You know, to get the car almost against that barrier as you kick it in, run it really far out, then just scoop it back around and just shoot straight out of the corner, and it'll give you a really good line through there. But you got to really hold on to the car there, because especially with no traction control and no ABS, it will be a little squirrely.
It was good enough for 10th, so he did go quicker that time by. You're watching the 777 now. Gonzalez, one who still needs a time, but unfortunately we got 20 seconds left and he wasn't close enough to the line. So that is it for the grid. Rafael Amorim has put it on the pole. Cameron Martineau in 2nd, followed by Chris Pies in 3rd. Leif Peterson, P4. It's Daniel Ruberl starting from 5th, followed by James Huth. Inside of the next row is Joe Steifel, and Travis Brody starts 8th. Trey Drawhorn, 9th, and Jacob Schum will round out your top 10, DJ.
It's Ben Diopate in 11th, followed by Glenn Dennis with Nikki Chan and Gabrielle Bono behind them. Lyle Eddy will be lining up 15th with Dewey Kang to his outside, and Jonathan Waltman and Stephen Chen behind them. Rodney Campbell is 19th, and Oregon Garalt will round out your top 20.
21st is Robert Rose with Matthew Mulbauer in 22nd, Rich Minkler in 23rd, Jerry Masriello 24th, Robert Lacroix 25th, Dion Simon as 26th, 27th is Rick Reisenberg, Joe Sinclair 28th, Carlos Lopez in 29th, and Julian Velez in 30th.
31st is Charles Yao with Christian Rava 32nd, Robert Cottle last one to set a time, the Kosnaks at all talkie, and Gonzalez the rest of your field. Looks like everybody's gridded up. So as the engines start to rev, nope, we're waiting on Rich Minkler. I jumped the gun on this one. The 35 still needs to get himself out there. Hopefully he doesn't wait too much longer, or else he will be started from pit lane. And he is going to hold us, it looks like, all the way until now he is out there. So all 37 cars ready to go. Those Porsche engines singing as the lights come up, and the green flag is out. Rafael Amram much better off the line than Martineau. Martineau gets swamped. Thankfully, everybody's able to get around him. You can see it is a narrow hallway down into turn 1. And as they fan out, they're almost 4 wide in some cases as the Pro Class sends it through turn 1. And I think, DJ, we have made it through.
We have made it through, but it gets even narrower here coming through turn 2. Everybody having to be a little bit careful. Peterson and Pies on a good start up through the field. They're in 2nd and 3rd right now. I'm not seeing a lot of brake smoke. Everybody being very cautious here in this early lap.
The only one I'm seeing in the mid-pack who's having trouble there is Robert Rose in the 443, but nobody really off down into the hotel hairpin. Braking. A big move up the inside from Martineau, who's going to get a position back past Travis Brody. Brody's going to lose another one as Joe Steifel in the 003 is trying to overtake him. Also, Banjapaje is in there, down into Cunningham side by side, and Joe doesn't have it done yet, Rachel.
Not quite yet, but they're all still on top of each other in the field, so tightly packed together here. It's one mistake and this is wiping out half of them, but they get a little bit of wobble just up there. We saw in the corner of our screen as they're dropping down towards the old hairpin here, and we're going to have our first real tricky section, I think, for a field this size, and it'll be coming down here. We'll get these guys filtering out through the chicane, and it will start to get a little bit more weavy, and they'll think there's room, and there won't be.
Indeed, and Brody managed to get right back past the 003. We're on board with Drawhorn, and there is just an absolute stream of Porsches that are flying onto the Ullman Straight now. There is almost no separation from 5th place down what looks like almost 20th or so as someone is off. That is Minkler, who unfortunately is spun to the inside of the track. They all break down into Sunset Bend, DJ.
Yes, they do. And as we watch this battle on your screen right here, that's Drawhorn trying to get his way up by the number 5 of Daniel Rubel. Going to be a little bit of a drag race, but Rubel able to carry better momentum around the outside of Sunset. He'll hold on to that position for now.
Still a little side by side behind them. That's Huth on the outside. Purple car on the inside is Schum. And side by side again as well with Rubel. Drawhorn goes 2 wheels into the grass, breaking down into turn 3. Very deep for Rubel. He finds the apex. He's going to get the spot. Nobody willing to give up between Huth and Schum here until Schum almost gets a good exit. No, Rachel, it keeps going. It just does not stop.
Yeah, it really does. Really tight fighting here. These guys are still scrapping this thing out, just like we saw in the last race here. And it's throughout the entire field again, which is just showing how balanced these series really are here. We're seeing a huge amount of competition, and I think the track is really helping that. It's so much the equalizer here at Sebring.
So back up to Amram, our leader, 0.7 of a second currently over Pies. But as we watch from Pies' view, I can report that Drawhorn and Rubel were at it yet again. And they're going to go back to single file here coming down through Collier. Behind them, don't forget about Huth. He's already managed to get by Schum, sizing up his next one. Often, James is denoted, DJ, by the other drivers as one they watch out for. James is considered a hot shoe amongst hot shoes.
Yeah, he certainly is as he works his way through here, just trying to hold in position. He doesn't want to go too aggressive here too early as he now gets a good exit out of Le Mans. A little bit of a wiggle up ahead of him there for Rubel, but I don't think that's going to be enough for him to capitalize on.
Ooh, something happened to Brody. Brody is slow. Seeing if he cut the corner somehow, and I think he may have. Yeah, I think he got a slowdown penalty there.
Yeah, I think he just cut it a little bit too much. Unfortunately, we do have a notification of Black Flag Gonzalez for an incident. We'll be coming down pit road.
Banjapaje riding on board with the 770. That's Joe Stifle in front of him. Behind, they've got Glenn Dennis, Travis Brody, and Nicky Chan. So Brody settles into 8th after he gave back the time that he was deemed to have gained by the sim. Look at him really clobbering these curves. What a drastic difference, DJ, between the challenge class that we saw.
Sorry, Gerlap just got spun out. Going to be a little bit later in the lap there, I think, but he just, no, it's the start of lap, turn 2.
Oh, it was Rodney Campbell making contact. Grant Talkie was involved as well. This is down into turn 3. Oh. And it was a chain reaction effect, just wound up being the car to the outside that it all was dumped into his lap. And he had to turn back around and get on the circuit as we come down into Cunningham here. And Nicky Chan is getting an eye full of Travis Brody. And back to what I was talking about, DJ, just seeing how much of the curbs they're willing to take. I feel like I'd be more afraid bouncing them as hard as they do.
I certainly would be as well, Joe, but what that is just practice. If you're able to do that time in and time out, running the same lap, running the same line, and being that aggressive with the curbs, you know exactly to the absolute millimeter where you can put the car and where you can't, and that's what we're seeing play out here.
Onto the back stretch again. Up at the front of this group, it's getting tight here between Stifle and Banjapaje. This time, the 770 is going to actually try to get to the inside. Does. Got the traction. Can he actually outgun it off the corner? Yes, he can. Here comes Joe right back at him, thinking maybe he could pull the over-under. Has slightly better momentum. And a defense from Banjapaje down into turn 1 will keep him ahead, but only for so long. Rachel, nice cutback.
Oh, really nicely done there. Just keeps the car in exactly the right place he has to be to get that one done. And this is super close here. We're still too wide here from turn 2 to 3 and 4. Too wide, too deep. No, nearly. Oh, God, traffic ahead. This is bottling up really tight here. This is going to force it really under a blanket.
Yeah, that was Chan and Brody that were also side by side for a brief moment. We can see all of it up ahead of us as they fan out. Oh no, too deep on the brakes. And that is going to send around Joe Stifle. That was a hit from behind from Glenn Dennis.
Oh my goodness, Stifle there into the barriers. That is going to be heavy damage to the 003. There you can see it almost too wide. Just tried to get it, weaving back and forth and misjudged the angle there was Glenn Dennis.
I suspect that's going to be a penalty coming the way of Glenn in a moment. As we watch it one more time from his perspective, they were weaving quite a bit here, Rachel, so I kind of not shocked that it wound up causing a miscommunication.
Yeah, miscommunications can happen unfortunately frequently, especially when you're in this sort of tight knit of driving. It's going to really just put cars in a position where they have to guess what the other car's going to do. They haven't really got time to react.
Amazing. Dennis has not fallen away from Nicky Chan from that. Still in with a shout of things, but they have lost Banjapaje, who is now a good 1.5 seconds up the road. They come down into Sunset Bend, and Brody, who's trying to make up for his loss of time earlier, already 12 seconds behind the leader. has been caught up with here, DJ. I think all this fighting is just losing him time hand over fist from the top three.
Yeah, it really is. You're getting the sense that just all of that scrapping is putting him farther and farther back in the field. These guys need to start working together, as that was a little bit close through turn one.
Brody to the inside. Dennis doesn't defend, can't cut him off down into turn three. Tries to anyways, though. Goes for the apex, left just about enough space, but that was enough to scare off Travis, who falls back in line once again. In fact, he looks a little slow as Trod Drehorn pulls a bead on him, Rachel.
Yeah, absolutely. And just really putting the car where he wants there, making sure he's got him lined up. And it's going to be a psychological game as well, don't forget. He's going to want to make sure he fills that mirror and just reminds him he's there the whole time, because making the guy make a mistake is the far easiest pass you can get.
Things just going back and forth here amongst this group. Another little peek. Drawhorn wants to try and overtake Brody. He does scare him to go into a little deep through Cunningham. As we hop on board with Huth, who's got a front row seat to the action.
Yes, he does sit back in that popcorn position, and that was the 9th place Drawhorn, I think, locking up the front right just a little bit, and that cost him a little bit of time, but not nearly enough. He is still in full attack mode on Brody.
Absolutely is. Into Jean Debian. And this line of cars can't seem to get away from one another. Not usually considered a draft track, this one, even though it does offer up some slipstreaming on the Ullman Straight, such as we have here. And this is Travis Brody's on board, still stuck in that 8th position. I think we had a pass between Martineau and Peterson, or is that an unsuccessful pass? No, that was a pass. Peterson went slow at the end of the straightaway. I think he must have also had a cut course. So there you can see the 98 is now on the podium.
Yeah, great place to put him in there, sorry. As the cut courses happen really easily here. It's super, super, super easy to get one around Sebring. It's like Spa. Off tracks and cut courses are super available because of how the track's laid out. In fact, it's going to invite you to do it, as we're on board there with Brody looking at his camera as well. Always love seeing the driver's cameras as well. Just gives a bit of an insight into how it is for them on the racetrack, and Brody looking very relaxed.
Being down through Big Bend, he's dropped off the back of Dennis now. So Glenn's found some speed in spite of getting into the back of another car. In fact, I don't see a whole lot of damage. Oh, no, that was Brody's car that we were just looking at there, so that wasn't the front. There, we saw a little glance of it. There is a tiny bit of crumple, it seems. So I imagine Glenn experienced a slight loss of straight line speed down into the braking of Cunningham. Brody still on the attack, but has not been able to make up much ever since he had to serve that slowdown penalty, DJ.
No, he really hasn't. He seems to be a little bit mired back in the wars here as this 4-car train continues to go on. Good run there out of Cunningham. It has to be, or out of Tower rather, it has to be said for Dennis. He was able to pull a little bit of a gap.
Ian Simon made some contact with Stephen Chen, sent him around. Looks like Chen is back on the road and rolling 28th. So minor incident, but certainly hurt the 8 car by a wide margin. Somebody having to bob and weave down the backstretch here as things get a little feisty. That is Trey Drawhorn in the black car with James Huth in the gray car. Interesting way to mix up that name. And Trey onto the main straight somehow gets the power down quite well. The 395 going to have the advantage, Rachel.
Yeah, absolutely. He really will there, and it'll be a big one for him. Drawhorn can really put the pressure on this, like you say, and it'll give him the opportunity to really push towards the likes, of course, of Brody and Dennis ahead of him. Dennis, though, could be a little bit less flappable.
Absolutely, and they're getting closer to that halfway mark in this race. It's only been 13 minutes. It feels like we've already gone halfway through this thing. There's been a lot of action in a short amount of time. And even though they are still packed so closely together, it feels like they've been this close for ages. And one for the ages does not come to fruition for Brody, DJ, as once again can't seem to outbreak Dennis.
Indeed, and I wonder, Joe, if any of the drivers were taking a look at that previous race we've got Nicky Chan trying to make a move on Benjio here as well in the back, getting very tight as well, locking up the brakes side by side out of Tower.
Two battles, 2 by 2 at once, down through Collier for top 10 positions here. And it looks like Benjio will be able to stay ahead of Nicky Chan, if not briefly. Huth, though, still stuck behind Drawhorn. And we're going to go side by side in front of them once again. Nicky Chan going clear around the outside of Benjio through Bishop. That was brave stuff, Rachel.
Oh, hugely brave. That was... yeah, he really has put the car in exactly a great position. Now, looking at the replay here, just brings it alongside. He tries to squeeze him, but he holds on to it and just pressures him into making a bit of a wobble there on the curbing and just nails it. Nicely done.
Cool as a cucumber. Chan into 5th, just trusting that the 770 would not lose the car and fly into him as they streamed through that double left-hander back onto the front stretch, being led now by Nicky Chan. That cost them a lot of time, and it looks like Glenn Dennis has approached the rear bumper of the 770. We hop onto the nose of James Huth in 10th place. This battle goes all the way down to about Waltman in 16th position, rather.
Yeah, indeed does, Joe, as well. Got a little side-by-side there going around. This is Eddie and Albano as they try to work their way through turn 2 right now. They're still going to be side-by-side coming out of the corner as they go through Gurney Bend. Off onto the grass, Dewey Kang sitting in the popcorn position.
Inside goes to Albano for right now, so slight tactical advantage. Eddie breaks a little early. Is he going for the over-under? He might be, but it doesn't quite work. Still gets a decent launch. Albano is once again susceptible. Does he defend for a second time? Yes, he does. Just pinches Lyle all the way down, is behind them. Looks like Talkie and Waltman are trying to sort it out. Oh, but he gets into Waltman, turns him around, and Waltman is left at the side of the road of Collier, wondering what just happened.
Oh, yeah, that was getting extremely bubbly there on the track as they were just right beside each other here through the corner. And it's just nudging. Was there a nudge? I can't really tell. There was definitely a nudge afterwards, but I think there might have been a slight touch early on. I want to find out what stewards think.
I'm sure they'll take a look at that, and especially since it cost Waltman time and positions because of that. So he goes to the tail end of this train, and we watch the front of it come down into Sunset Bend. Nicky Chan leading Benjio. So Chan still has the position, bravely taken away. Somebody into pit lane, I think, yep, James Huth is going to be the first to blink slightly before the halfway mark, DJ.
All right, and remember, this is a little bit of what we saw last time with Sean Murphy. Now, hopefully, I think because this field is a lot more compressed, he should be able to exit out in some relatively clean air and be okay, but he's going to really, really hope he does not get caught behind any other slower cars. I'm also seeing Ian Simon and Jonathan Waltman all coming down pit lane.
On screen, you saw Amram, and then Pies, and now Martineau and Peterson. That's your top 4 in order. We go back to 5th with Nicky Chan, weaving a little bit back and forth, hoping to go on the attack on Benjio. Oh, nothing doing behind them. A little wide from Brody, who recently got the spot from Dennis through turn 1. Dennis sees a chance to try and pay him back as they fly through Fangio and up to the Cunningham right-hander. He'll have to break deep, and it looks like he does. Leaves the door open for Drawhorn to try and get his nose in, but no, it looks like Brody's able to shut the door, Rachel, as we hop on board with Drawhorn.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Drawhorn definitely been one of those guys that's putting in the pressure here as getting ourselves pushing on now. We're about 20 minutes or so left on the clock here, which is about, we're looking at the pit stop over the next 10 minutes or so. The later pitting's definitely proven to be one of the strongest points here, of course, so I hope to see what those guys can actually do with that, because we know that, is there a point where late is too late, Joe? I mean, we seem to see that the latest has been the best.
Yeah, I think going to the end of the fuel tank's probably the way to go, especially considering how tightly packed they are there. It's looking incredibly likely that you'll wind up cycled into one of these large tussles that we've got amongst drivers. By the way, Grant Talkie was given a black flag for that contact that sent one of our drivers around. Oh, and Brody's in. Rubel is in. So a couple very quick drivers trying to get out of this group. Maybe this is a good thing here. Maybe this will help them get some clear air as opposed to what they were in. But the leaders absolutely not expecting them in at this stage, DJ.
No, not at all. And I can report we were talking about finding that gap in clean air, and James Huth was able to do that. He's got about 3.5 or so seconds up to Steven Chen up ahead of him as they work their way by now, but it'd be interesting to see where he's able to come out in relation to Travis Brody as he was on the tail end of that big battle pack.
Yeah, and Huth gets pretty lucky here because he's ahead of Brody and Rubel, so he's still got that track position. So we'll draw horn, try to repeat that. He's still tussling with Dennis now. Dennis is going to cover the inside, so this is going to slow both of them down. Still braking deep enough that he can get the overlap coming into Cunningham. Can he finish it up from the long way around? Don't run into each other through Collier like we saw before. Oh, they keep it clean.
Eddie off the track along with the 32 machine of Dewey Kang. That's from 10th and 12th place. Contact.
Oh, no. And that is going to be Dewey Kang. Just straight out braking himself and sending Eddie for a ride. Albano went off in sympathy. That was bizarre. That was at the exact same time. And the 13 falls down a number of spots himself. So this is looking to a little bit like we saw at the end of the club session here, DJ, where maybe the tires getting a little bit worn, and maybe worn earlier since we are seeing drivers push that a little bit harder here in the pro class.
Indeed, they could be a little bit worn. They could be a little bit hot, Joe, and it may just need to take a couple of laps to sort of back off and let them come back to them there. We ride on board with Jacob Schum right here. It looks like he's holding back a little bit. Maybe that's what he's trying to do on Glenn Dennis right now, is just let those tires cool and then launch a greater attack here in a couple of laps.
King got a black flag from the contact we just saw him make on our replay. Albano also pits in. So we're starting to see things erupt. Kang's now serving his penalty currently, so he's going to start losing positions. That will not count as his pit stop unless he actually stops in his stall. Actually, let me see if he's done that. No, I think he did. Yeah, he has. So he'll have to serve an extra penalty because of that. They are not allowed to come in and get service if they are given a black flag penalty. They have to just either drive on through or come into the pit stall and wait patiently for that penalty to finish, as we watch from the nose now of Banja Paje, Rachel. 18 minutes left to go. One of these two, I feel like, has got to try and make a call for an undercut or something here, because they've been fighting so much.
Yeah, and the undercut is not that... I mean, it's good for traffic position, but the longer stop actually may hurt you, so I don't know whether it's worth just sticking with it and seeing who blinks first and going second.
Yeah, maybe the overcut instead. We'll have to watch and see. Glenn Dennis is also very close behind Trey Drawhorn, and Trey just made a big mistake coming out of Le Mans. He tries to cover the inside, immediately down to the far right side of the track. Dennis has got better speed. He's fully clear now. He's going to have to chop down, and he doesn't. He leaves the door open. Drawhorn tries to take advantage of it. Does he just take it into the pits as well? Nope, he's going to keep it out. But Schum does. Behind them, the purple car is now in.
I think that's a good call from Schum. You see this battle erupting ahead of you. You don't really want any part of it. Let these two slow each other down over the course of this lap, Joe, as Drawhorn tries to go around the outside there of that first corner. Cuts him back. We could have a little bit of a race down here into turn 2.
He shows himself in the mirrors, but he can't get it done. Now less than 17 minutes to go. Schum hits his pit stall. and actually is out very quickly. Holy cow. It is 9.6 seconds for Jacob Schum. That is the fastest regular stop I think we've seen all race, as this battle is down to the hairpin now. Glenn Dennis on the inside, Drawhorn on the outside. Drawhorn tries to get himself just the littlest room that he needs, and the door looks like it's going to be shut once again, Rachel, but he's going to wedge his foot in, and oh man, things are getting so tight. This might not end well.
It might not, but I think it's going to stay relatively calm for now. We've managed to single file things out here, and that's going to make things a lot more tolerable, I think, for these guys. It's just going to revert back to this mind game now in the mirror of each car, and it's going to be a little bit before we see another attempt. I think it might be Ullman would be a good opportunity for this, because the side-by-side really isn't going to benefit them. They've got room on the track to really play with here, so go for a draft pass.
And I think he might have a good draft pass set up here in a second. Let's see what he can do off of Le Mans, because that's the critical moment. Amarim is pitting right now, for those that are curious. So leader is now in, but Pies stays out. Drawhorn does not draw up, unfortunately, as it's not enough of a slipstream, DJ. Peterson also carries on.
Yeah, Peterson's going to stay on. Pies, Martineau, waiting to see if Nicky Chan or Banjo Page are going to blink. It looks like Banjo Page will carry on. Nicky Chan's going to come on in. These two here, Drawhorn and Dennis, they're opting to stay out as well.
So right now, Huth is our highest pitter, but we expect that Amarim should easily come out in the lead in terms of that fight. In fact, Huth has certainly been slowed up by all this traffic that he's been fighting with, and man, Amarim is light years ahead of him now. So yeah, it's massive. The 21 found clear track, and he is out in a good spot. Nicky Chan is returning. Where is Huth? Huth is coming up on him now. This is going to be close between Chan and Huth, actually.
Yeah, it's coming down to that, and who's pushing here? Steven Chen is, well, not going to be holding this for long, I don't think. The way things are thrown up at the moment, he's looking a little bit slower.
Chan gets out ahead, but just barely. Huth now behind, with Steven Chen behind them. Jacob Schum, who's also stopped, has closed up a big gap. Chen has not stopped, so he needs to leave them be here within a couple minutes and take his splash and go. So they come out of the chicane from the turn 7 hairpin and down towards the Cunningham right-hander. It looks like Huth really wants his spot. He may have pitted about 4 laps earlier, DJ, but I don't think those tires are going to be that tired right now. I think he'll have something left in them. Question is where?
Exactly. It looks like here he's just trying to back the car up a little bit, get the best line he can, going through Bishop Bend and lining himself up through Jean Debienne and Le Mans. He's going to have to be careful, though. You can fight this back if you're Nicky Chan just by backing your own car up a little bit, as we've got the leaders down pit lane.
Yep, this looks to be the end of the pit window. Pies, Martineau, Peterson, Banjo Page, Dennis, Drawhorn, all in. Amarim is already flying past the start-finish line. Pies should be coming out in second. Yep, he is out now just as Amarim goes by. So easy return to the lead for the 21. And the 14 has little say in it himself. He's going to be roughly 5 seconds back once they get up to speed here, Rachel.
Yeah, and the pit cycle, of course, has been an interesting one, because the pit out here at Sebring just delivers you into the exit area of turn 1, which we've seen already can cause some problems. So they're going to have to be very careful about A, rejoining, and B, coming through when someone's rejoining. We've already seen contacts there as well, so it's definitely going to be one of those points in the race where you have to be really vigilant.
So that's everybody now down into the pits. Of those who stopped, I think Huth might be the biggest loser on that one. Just going way too slow. And Nicky Chan talking to somebody about someone. Was that, I think that was Banjo Page. Yeah, he was talking to the 770 there.
Yeah, just talking a little bit about that pit lane exit there and how close the two of them were coming out. As this battle that we saw before pit stops going to definitely rage back on, but Huth, obviously, as you said, losing out here down into 7th. He is still trying to get by Nicky Chan, but he's showing a lot of patience here. There's still about 12 minutes left to go in this race. He'll have plenty of opportunity to overtake, probably about 5 or so laps worth at this point. So he doesn't need to push too crazy hard here. He just needs to wait for the opportunity to present itself.
Chan with a +7 to his name right now, gaining a lot of spots in this race. Almost tied for hard charger. No, he's got a couple of their way more up. It looks like Rick Reinsberg is up 12 that I'm seeing, and I think that might be the highest we've got. So that put him into 15th currently. Down the backstretch, Nicky Chan weaving a bit, trying to follow the slipstream of Banjo Paje, and Huth going with them as they snake back and forth, Rachel.
Yeah, with this being down to the final 10 minutes, this is as close as I think we've seen one of these races this week. Really pushing this thing here. Just a big reminder though, Amarim still is out front. We haven't covered him much because he's just running away here. 5.1 second over Pies, so the undercut won't really make a difference there, or the overcut. It's a big, big gap.
But this man, Amarim, how focused is he right now? Because let's remember, started on the pole last time out like he did here, but only was able to come home in 17th in the end. But Christopher Pies is still hunting him home. Christopher was our winner last time out, and Amarim has got a gap of about 5.3 seconds. But Rafael's got to try and make sure that he brings the car home. He cannot throw this one away. Oh, and we've gone deep with Banjo Paje all the way out into the grass. And that allows Huth and Chan through, as well as Shum, Brody, and maybe even Glenn Dennis. Dennis is going to try to capitalize on this as we take a look at the replay.
And I think this was just a simple matter of him outbraking himself, Joe. You saw him trying to be defensive down onto that inside line, breaking a little bit of the draft. Oh, Glenn Dennis just went around.
Oh, and he's wedged himself into the tires. Just hit at the exact wrong spot, right where the Armco and the tires meet. Brought him to a complete halt. If he just would have glanced off of Armco, I think he would have been mostly okay. Here it is. And again, unforced errors. Both of them, DJ. Oh, that was a big hit.
Yeah, it really and truly was, but that's just a little bit of the mental stress that is going into this race. When you're racing this close, this tight for this long, it does take a massive strain on your mental system. When you're out running in the lead like Rafael Amarim, it's a lot easier to do. You can just kind of back off and relax. When you're fighting this close, you not only have to be thinking about your line, you have to be thinking about the driver's line ahead of you, how to get by. Your adrenaline is going to be up. It is just a compounding factor.
So as Nicky Chan has to deal with a charging James Huth. James is within about a car length, decides not to try it into turn 1, maybe setting himself up for 3 here. Looks like a decent exit. He's still within that car length, but I don't think he's close enough that he could really attack yet. 8 minutes to go. He'll have about 5 more laps, I think. Maybe less than that. It looks close across the line. Yes, 5 more laps between them. There's about 8:20 left on the clock as they cross the line. We'd come back instead, Rachel, to Lyle Eady. We've spent so much time at the mid-pack and just glances at the front. We haven't looked back here much yet.
Yeah, not really, but there's been some really close racing going on, and we've got it throughout this entire field, which is really epic. These guys putting on a massive fight all the way back here. Just showing how strong this pro field is really been pretty intense the entire length. And we've got a 4-pack back here, of course, you've seen on screen. And we've got some movement as well, heading down towards the old hairpin, but will it work out? I don't think so. Defensive line.
Manages to hold them off. Switching back, coming down towards Fangio. As these are just as important a positions for these drivers. Leading this trio, Carlos Lopez. Ooh, little look to the inside from Kostanak. Almost got a leg in, but Geralt denies him. And Kostanak is tied for up 12 with Sedal, who's behind him by about 5 seconds. Kostanek looks like he wants one more, DJ.
Yeah, he's certainly trying to see what he could do on Oregon. Oh, it looks like Ian Simons had a little bit of an off up ahead of him. Dropping back here, though, a little bit. Derwin is, as he came into the braking of Jean Debienne. Yeah, there you can see Ian Simon off directly ahead of you.
It's one of those spots where we keep mentioning it's like the more modern Grand Prix tracks where it's all the runoff that was essentially the runway. And Kostanek is still on it. Still seeing if he could get one more. He just inherited one. Now he's going to take one instead by force. Kostanek going by Geralt. Geralt doesn't seem to have an answer. That moves Derwin up into 20th, a 14 position gain. And in the pro class as well, Rachel.
Yeah, that's a massive gain in the pro class, of course. We've really seen a very clean race here. Not many incidents on track. So 14 places gained is a huge achievement, especially in a field as strong as this one. But we're on board here with Rubel from the Rising Dead region. Looking forward there as we go through the field. And just showing still how close this entire field is. We're 35 minutes in, and they're still all on top of each other.
Yeah, we have 32 drivers still on the lead lap. That's what's so incredible about this. Only Gonzalez and Yao have been lapped. Rava, Velez, and Campbell have DNF'd currently. So only 3 cars officially out. As we take a look at Martineau, and he's caught up with Pies. Now, is this recent? Let me look at the lap times here. See if there was a mistake that we missed. And I'm not seeing anything major. It does look like there was 0.8 of a second quicker for Martineau. So wonder if Pies maybe just had a little off or something that didn't completely spin it, DJ, but maybe cost himself time.
Yeah, it could have just been a little bit of snap oversteer that he had to catch with the car coming around like that. It could also be a situation. Let's see what this last lap is. Another 2/10 taken out of it, 2.25 there for Martineau. So clearly that 98 has got some speed. Starting to wonder maybe if Chris Pies just has overcooked his stuff a little bit. He drove it too hard, too late, and he's going to have a problem as Nicky Chan looked like he is in a little bit of a battle here with Huth.
No surprise there. Huth trying to go around the outside for 5th place, and he's got it. Chan's going to be slow, allowing Schum to have a chance to try and fight too. And he's going to take the opportunity, but slamming the door shut immediately. Nicky Chan says no. We're down to 4 minutes left to go, Rachel. 3 laps left.
Yeah, the final moments. This is where if you want to make a pass, you have to set it up. And with the lap time here being just about 2 minutes, yeah, you got to do now because it's a lap and a half or just under 2 laps. And we look at Brody here from P8, Schum and Chan right ahead of him. He's still in a window here, so if this battle heats up, he could throw himself ahead of them.
Brody back to where he began this race. If he hadn't have had that off earlier on, I got to think that he'd be potentially fighting for the podiums. Even though he did start in 8th, it looks like his race pace is excellent, but he's not been absolutely perfect, and that is what has cost him. That is what it takes, DJ, in this pro class to get wins. You cannot put a foot wrong.
No, you really cannot. It is absolutely about being pixel perfect as we watch Rich Minkler here working his way on Gabriel Albano. This is actually one of our closest battles out on track right now. Minkler trying to gain his way back up. Minkler up 8 positions. Albano right where he started, but he's about to be put down 1.
Yep, Minkler into 14th. And as they slow up for, oh, what is going on here? Down the Ullman Straight, is that just cars getting lapped? Someone off the pace, Mario Gonzalez. So yeah, that's a car getting lapped, so going very wide on entry. Jacob Schum versus Nicky Chan. Ooh, that's a very good exit. And watching Jacob Schum, looks like maybe there was a bit of a delay there because he was turning off to the left as we came down the straightaway. And there we go. Maybe we're starting to get the right feed, or is there, oh, we're just having some connection issues. Steven Schum still behind Nicky Chan. And coming into the 3rd corner, James Huth, now that he's been clear, he is scampered away, 1.3 seconds between them.
Yeah, it really has here, of course, and he pulled that gap up exactly what he needed to do. With this little time left of the clock, he had to make that gap now. It helps protect him from attack from behind, and it's when you'll get those desperate, shall we say, moves in these last laps, is when you want to be able to protect yourself with just space. Because if you're close, you have to physically defend, and that's where we can have little contacts.
Yeah, well, and if they're close, it's not just the physical. It's like DJ was talking about. It's the mental game. And that just makes you all kinds of nervous. Let's see if Yao looks nervous here as he rides in 32nd. He's not even close to anybody, unfortunately. 42 seconds behind Lacroix. First one a lap down in that 17. And Mario Gonzalez just came into pit lane. I wonder if he took that as a late stop after an incident earlier on. Amarim, in the meantime, coming around DJ to the start-finish line. With just under a minute to go, the white flag waves.
Yes, it does. Rafael with a massive 7.8 second advantage right now. He is pretty much going to be in smooth sailing. He was able to just get around Robert LaCroix there, and so he now has clean track in front of him. He's able to just run his very own race.
Just clipping those curbs left and right. It's Lacroix behind him that we saw, who's a lap down. Next car back is 7.8 seconds behind the number 14 of Chris Pies. Not a threat. Clock's going to hit 0, and checkered flag will be displayed. Coming along here, looks like Amarim continuing to just carefully place his car at every corner. We're also being pretty much the fastest thing out there, continuing to pull away. As this is going on, Shum, Chan, Brody, Banjapaje, and Rubel are all still within about a second and a half of each other, vying for 6th position, Rachel.
Yeah, they really are, and this has been our big battle we've seen most of this race. From the guys like, of course, Huth, Shum, Chan, Brody. This has really been our big fight, and it's separated out now, which I think means it's going to probably stabilize in this order.
We'll wait and see. I've learned not to count anything until the checkered flag actually gets thrown, because you just don't know, especially in this series. But up at the very front, we look at the red 21 of Rafael Amarim. Missed out on the victory back at Watkins Glen, despite having the pole in his hands. This time, he gets both of them, and I think he might even have the fastest lap on top of that. No, looks like Martineau is going to have it, actually, now that I'm looking at it. As the checkered flies, Amarim will win in race 2, DJ.
A great run for him. We've got to wait a whopping 8 seconds there for Chris Pies to be able to come across the line. And then Martineau, less than a second behind him. That was a good last lap run. Let's see if anything happens from this exciting group that we've been watching the entire race.
Chan poking and prodding, but Shum's not going to be scared, or is he? He goes a little bit wide. He leaves the door open. If he can outgun him, that might be the place kept. Yes, look at that. Jacob Shum is gonna keep the spot over Nicky Chan by about 1/10 of a second.
Oh, got it just done where he needed to, of course. Been on board here with Reisenberg from 22nd up towards 21st place. That's Lyle Eddy. It's going to be a big enough gap, though, that I don't think it will change unless something dramatic happens here in Sunset. But coming through, no issues for either as they'll come towards the line. And yeah, we had such a tight race this entire way through. This entire field was phenomenal tonight.
Yep, gonna finish ahead of Reinsberg, and that's the last of our various battles on track. So we look at the race results, and up at the top of them, Rafael Amarim is your victor from the pole. Chris Pies, starting from 3rd, winds up 2nd. Cameron Martineau fell from 2nd down to 3rd. Lee Peterson settled exactly into where he began, 4th place. James Huth is up to 5th from his 6th place starting position, but probably had more pace than what that implies. Jacob Shum narrowly avoiding being dropped at the line. He came in 6th ahead of Nicky Chan. You've got Travis Brody in 8th, Banjapaje 9th, and Rubel in 10th.
It was Trez Drawhorn coming home in 11th, followed by Robert Rose with Jeremy Mazzariello in 13th and Rich Minkler 14th. Gabriel Albano was 15th, and in 16th it was Matthew Mulbauer with 17th, Derwin Kostanek and Carlos Lopez behind him. Oregon Girl was in 19th, and Ian Simon rounds out your top 20.
21st is Lyle Eddy with Rick Reisenberg 22nd, there Matthew Siddle 23rd, with Stephen Chen 24th, Joe Stiffel 25th, Glenn Dennis 26th, Dewey Kang 27th, Joe Sinclair 28th, 29th, Robert Cottle, Jonathan Waltman in the 30th spot. And those last few on the board are going to be Robert Lacroix in 31st, first car lap down, Charles Yao 32nd, Grant Torquay with Mario Gonzalez, Christian Rava, Julian Velez, and Rodney Campbell in 37th.
That gives us a chance to talk to our winner, Rafael Amorim. Rafael, it's looking like you had control of this one. Pies was relatively close early on, but in the end, 8.2 seconds to me says that by the end, you were just hitting your marks.
Yeah, I try to stay focused, and it's always tough having Chris or Cameron behind you. Those guys are just so fast. So I try to stay focused, open up a little bit of a gap, and just have a consistent pace. And I knew it was a fast year. I love this track. So for me, it was just keeping it clean, making no mistakes, and hoping I could stay ahead of Chris.
I don't know what kind of feelings you wind up feeling, but for me, when I'm on the pole, it feels like I have to win or else it's an embarrassment. And last week, you unfortunately fell all the way down to 17th position back in Watkins Glen. Does this one feel like redemption now that you both stuck it on pole and came away the victor?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Last week, made some silly mistakes, and it was a tough race in the end. It was a lot of fun, but still a tough race in the end. And it's good to be back on top, and it's good to have a consistent race with no mistakes again.
So after this, though, it's off to Winton. I'm hearing some nervousness from drivers going to that new track because it is very small and tight with a short lap. Do you feel any of that nervousness?
To be honest, I don't know. I'm going to miss the next race. I'm going to have to be traveling for work, and I was looking forward to that. It feels like it's going to be very chaotic, and that makes it fun sometimes. But I'll definitely be watching and hoping for a good race.
We'll look out for you. But again, congrats on the win. Is there anybody that helped make this victory possible?
Oh, as always, my wife. She's the one that helps me. My family that's been watching, and they've been looking out for me here. And as always, I would like to thank you guys from Podium, all of the folks that helped make this possible, and the sponsors as well. This is a lot of fun, and I keep enjoying it.
That was your winner, Rafael Amorim, taking the 21 machine home to victory as DJ's caught up with Mr. Googly Eyes himself, Christopher Pies.
I have indeed. Chris, a great race out there for you, but it looked like you were starting to sweat a little bit near the end. Talk to me about holding off Chris Martineau there.
Oh, yeah. A bit of a repeat from last night for those of you that watched the Pro V Pro Series. But yeah, Cameron is a heck of a driver, and I knew he was coming, and I was just trying to hit my lines, hit my marks, and maximize my speed to try to keep him back there.
Well, obviously good qualifying, good results all the way around. Are you happy with the second here, or would you rather have been fighting for first, or was Rafael just that too far out of reach today?
Rafael is he's on another level, especially here at Sebring. I think we raced here about a month ago or so, and it was pretty much the same story. He just walked away. So I'm happy with second. It keeps me in the points hunt. I had a clean race. I think I had 0 incidents. So get some bonus points there as well. So still in the mix, still confident, and looking forward to week 4. I won't be here for next week. I'll be out of town.
It seems to be a little bit of a common trend from everybody we've talked to, but as you go into race by race, are you approaching each race as they come, or are you really trying to keep your eye on that championship hunt as much as possible?
I'm approaching it race by race. I'm kind of looking at it and prepping for each week. And I know that if I do my homework and do the proper prep, the races will fall, and then where I end up at the end of the season will reflect how my performance was. So pretty much just a race by race, and whatever happens, happens.
Well, fantastic, my friend. Anybody you want to thank for this second place here today?
I want to thank all you guys for putting on a great show. Mr. Bauer, with your camera work, I don't think I've thanked you in a while, so it's always appreciated. I always love watching the replays of the broadcast, and thanks a bunch for having me.
Thank you, Chris. That was Chris Pies, your second place finisher here today. And Rachel, I believe you've caught up with third place Cameron Martineau.
I did indeed. Cameron, a fantastic race today and just a really busy piece of track. You and Chris seem to be fighting quite a bit. How was the race today?
Hey, Rachel, thank you. Yeah, that was a fun one. It was a bit shaky off the start there. I'm not used to doing these standing starts in these cup cars, so did a nice little burnout at the start, which set me back quite a bit. But after that, it was, trying to get into the rhythm and, really just keep it clean and see if I can make the gap up. My strategy didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, but of course never does. So thought I, tried to make the most of it, made a few mistakes there at the end that, just from pushing too hard. Chris is obviously such a good driver, and, especially after last night, I was really hoping to, get up on his bumper and, return the favor from last night. But he was just a bit too quick for me. So a lot of fun. Happy with a P3. So.
A fantastic run, of course, and P3, a solid result. Podium spot there is exactly what you need looking forwards. The upcoming races, of course. How do you feel about the new track?
I have not driven it yet. It'll be interesting to see, with the practice next week, to see how it goes. And I know a lot of people are definitely got some mixed feelings, but I'm excited. It should be a fun track. Great addition to the service as well.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing what you guys can do. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to give a shout out to Hardpoint Motorsports for letting me drive and represent them in the the Porsche PCA Pro GT3 Cup and here on in Series 8. Give a big shout out to ST Racing, who will be representing in ACC here coming up shortly at the end of the month. Big thank you to everyone at Matrix, especially Bill Anderson, Jordan Dyer, and all those guys that we practice every week for these events. It's great to have them, and big shout out to my teammate Chris Walsh over at Hardpoint as well. He's a huge help. And then just the steering committee here at PCA Sim Racing, they do a great job organizing these events and making them as professional as possible. You guys here at Podium, always a professional production, and you guys do an awesome job. And just my friends and family that tune in every single week to watch me virtual race.
Well, it's always a pleasure. And thank you for joining us. Cameron Martineau coming home today in third. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So those were our podium finishers. And I have to say, even though we always thank the steering committee as well ourselves, it always makes me think of an actual committee trying to steer a car with 12 people with the hands on the wheel. So to put that mental image in your brain. But we want to say that we'll be back next time at Summit Point Raceway. That'll be 2 weeks from now at 9 p.m. Eastern at Wednesday, April 13th. And that's going to be live here on Podium Esports. But we also want to say a big thank you to the steering committee, of course, at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, Rachel, DJ, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without any of those behind the scenes at Podium Esports: Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.